And welcome to Soundcheck by Support Act. My name is Luke and I'm from Support Act. And today I'm joined by Ash King from the Indigo Project. Thanks for joining us, Ash.
Thanks so much for having me, Luke. Nice to be here.
It's always great to have you on, and I'm looking forward to another great discussion today about how people can look after their mental health. And just so, whilst we're on that topic, I want to encourage anyone who's out there who's doing it tough to contact the Support Act Wellbeing Helpline. It's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week service for people who work in the arts industry. And if you've got anything you want to talk about, reach out on 1-800-959-500. So Ash, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, I thought we could chat about the sort of new transition of where we're at kind of in the world and in our cities as we gradually move back into this, I guess people have been calling it, like new normal or like the old normal or whatever the hell it was before we were all locked down in our apartments and houses.
What next? What next?
What next? Exactly. And it's an interesting question because it almost feels like a little bit of a sort of a re-emergence for a lot of people. We're now sort of able to see, our friends and family. We're able to sort of go more places, but there's still heaps of restrictions in place, which do seriously limit what we can do, particularly if we're working in the music industry and, a whole lot of venues are still shut. Yeah,
that's right. And I guess it's a big kind of mental challenge for people because, after this period of complete isolation, you knew where we were, you knew what it was. It was, we were all meant to be locked down. We all had a shared purpose that we were fighting for, and that had its challenges, obviously. But now transitioning back into work or performing or, waiting for work or not having work or not knowing what the future holds, this is going to be a fraught period of time for a lot of people, I imagine.
Yeah. And there's not really a blueprint or, like a schedule that we can follow and know what to expect, which I think makes it even more challenging. It's this idea of uncertainty. And now with this, this sort of space for re-emergence, there's also an added pressure that we should be placing on ourselves to be doing something more or to be, hustling harder because, life is going back to normal, or whatever we understand that to be.
Yeah, whatever normal might look like.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess that's part of the challenge because it's going back to our previous discussions around self-worth or identity. Things have changed so much that people are going to have to reevaluate, what their identity is back in the workforce once we get out of this. But also, people just need to make some money. So what are some processes people can take themselves through to kind of work out how to get that motivation again to get out there and start, reestablishing themselves in the industry?
Yeah, well, I think motivation and self-discipline is a really interesting topic because I think that a lot of us assume that we're just going to be miraculously struck with the lightning rod of motivation once, we're given the opportunity to get back into things. And a lot of us on sort of a rational level know what things maybe we should be doing or what's good for us. And yet we still have that resistance somewhere to actually be, engaging in that behavior or making those positive changes. So what I would suggest is to actually sort of kind of be with yourself, almost like sit with yourself when you're feeling like, okay, I know what I want to do or what I need to do right now, and I'm not doing it. A lot of the time, we judge ourselves really harshly because we're like, what's wrong with you? You know that you should be saving money, or that you should be maybe like looking for some part-time or casual work, or you should be doing this, you should be doing that. We place a lot of pressure on ourselves because we think that is the source of motivation. But what we've found is in the research is that sort of guilt and shame do not really motivate us in any sort of healthy ways. And that was a huge breakthrough when I learned that, because I'm like, guilt, it's a great motivator. Yeah. Not really. And if you think about it, you would be a bit of a shit human if you use guilt and shame to motivate people around you, if you use them to motivate your kids, if you use them to, change the behavior of your friends or your partners. It doesn't really help our relationship with ourselves. And sometimes we need to separate our idea of who we are with how we treat ourselves. And imagine that we're, actually talking or trying to motivate another person that we love and care about.
Yeah, absolutely. And, like it probably doesn't set you up for, long-term sustainable success if those are the things that you're using to motivate yourself. Because that does work for the short term. I know, heaps of times getting ready for sessions, recording songs, it's usually the guilt and shame of not having finished lyrics and letting everybody else down or whatever it might have been that does motivate. But in the long run, especially for something as big as this, like how do we get back out there and, reestablish an identity in the music industry or reestablish a career, just those basic needs, it's not going to be great. I know personally myself, like I am a fairly organized, resilient type person, but even coming out of this, I have the feeling like my band was doing pretty well prior to the lockdown. We had all these great things happening, and then it's just gone kaput. And so now I'm at this juncture where it's, I kind of don't know where to pick up from. So I guess it's just about doing small things, yeah? Like trying to commit yourself to small actions.
Yeah. So, I think that this, having this big idea of like, how do I sort of re-emerge with my career, or how do I get my band back on track? A lot of these ideas are very lofty and broad, and they don't actually contain any sort of practical steps or strategies. So what you need to do, especially if you're feeling quite overwhelmed with all these big things, all these big plans, all these big dreams that you're holding, and you feel like maybe now is the time that you can get back to work on them, is to whittle them down to small, manageable and achievable tasks. Now, sometimes I like to give myself 3 tasks in a day. A 3 is like kind of a nice number. It's not too huge. It's not too small. And at the end of the day, if I've done these 3 things, then I feel like I've accomplished something. And they should be something really manageable. And you remember that sort of you can't smash a big time goal overnight. It's all about sort of the gradual work, the habits that you start to put in place. It's all about the little things that we do, because sort of little steps, one by one, slowly get us to where we want to go. So it's really just a matter of breaking things down.
Yeah. And I guess, going back to that thing of like the practical tool that we want people to walk away from today's sound check is, how do I regain motivation again? And I guess that's like running. You start off with a few slower steps and hope that you end up at a sprint at some point.
Yeah, I think that also comes down to...
It's a really bad metaphor.
No. It makes complete sense. For me, it never ends up in a sprint, to be honest. If I'm going for a jog, it'll end up in a walk. And that's just me, like, having to manage my expectations at the start of it. So I think that, you do need to manage your expectations, because maybe you don't have the scope, maybe you don't have the energy to be pushing as hard as you were prior to ISO, and that's completely fine. Like, dude, there's been a global pandemic, and society is crumbling.
Yeah.
So
we always have to put it in that context. Everyone forgets. It's like those like spooky movies you've seen where some like really insane kind of stuff has happened, like a zombie movie or whatever. Like it's kind of been like that. There's been a huge event that has changed the trajectory of society globally.
Yeah.
Give yourself a break. It's all good. And I think everyone's in a hurry because lockdown is ending. We're in a hurry to kind of go, let's just go back to how it was before. But a lot of people would have gone through a whole self-actualization process through this as well, which sounds like wanky language, but that whole kind of, I've secured my security needs, and now I'm in my garden and I'm growing potatoes for the first time because I really want to. And so now we're turning it back around and going, it's time to get back to how things were before you were a potato farmer in your backyard. And that's a confronting That's a confronting reality. I don't actually know if you can grow potatoes at this kind of year. That was just the first veggie that came to mind. But
Man, I wish that I could, because of the way I get through potato products, it would be much more useful if I could grow a sustainable crop.
I have a stomach ache amount worth of silver beet in my garden. I'm actually afraid of how much silver beet I have to eat. And but anyway, I digress. So that whole point about getting back out there and reestablishing, like, okay, no, there is two versions of myself. There's the me, which perhaps people have had more of an opportunity to kind of connect with again, like the actual who you are, what are your interests, how do you look after yourself, and then there's the side that's the I have a purpose and I have a career, and maybe that's not going to be the same, but I've got to start thinking about how I get back out there again. That's scary though.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely scary. And I think that, those two, I guess, sides to us should also sort of be working together and informing one another. I'll always say, take the pressure off yourself. And like we were just saying, shame and guilt aren't really going to be helpful motivating forces here.
Take the pressure down.
As the great man himself says. So take the pressure down when you are going back to, the things that you were maybe doing before, and take and dial down the expectation too. Things aren't going to be the same, and things might not go back to how you want them to as quick as you want them to. There's a lot that we can't control here, and that can be really, really frustrating. So another cool thing that you can do to work on this is maybe make a list, maybe make 2 lists of things that are within your control and things that are outside of your control. So for instance, maybe you're like, cool, I want to look at maybe getting some more gigs or finding out, what venues are going to be booking live music again. You don't have any control about when venues are going to be reopening, if they want to be rebooking, artists, if they've got any money to pay you, if they would book you even when they do open. So a lot of things are out of your hands. But what you can do is you can break those things down. You can say, well, do I need to refresh my online profiles, get some new content out there in the world that represents the me that I want to be in this scene? Can I hit up my contacts and, just check in, let them know that I'm keen to get back to work whenever they're ready? Can I talk to my mates in this industry too, check in on them, see how they're going, see if maybe we can collaborate on some content or on some projects that might be useful for both of us. So, it is hard when there's a lot of elements that are outside your control. And when you work in the music industry, it's a lot like that. I know me, a bit of a control freak, used to really hate that side of the industry personally. But I mean, everything has its good and has its bad, or you don't even need to separate it into the binary. We just all have to deal with things we can control and can't control. And so it's good to just get your head around the things that you can actually have power to influence, and then how you can go about doing those.
Yeah, and I guess, for those who are capable of that, putting that little bit of planning in place, at least putting a bit of mindful thinking, I guess, delving into mindfulness a little bit, being mindful of what it is you can control, what are your steps, what are the steps that are going to help support you back into work. Mm-hmm. Because also, we still live in an unknown kind of world. We don't know when JobKeeper's are going to be got rid of. We don't know what's happening with JobSeeker. There's a whole range of things that are still unknown for the time being in our industry. So that's really great advice, I think. Now, Ash, for Support Act, you're going to be running some workshops. Do you want to let everyone know what you're going to be doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited about this. And, Luke and I's chats have sort of brought up a lot of really great issues. My experience working in the music industry has also left me really passionate about mental health and the mental health of people who work in the music scene too. So what we're going to be doing is having monthly sort of webinar workshops where we're going to be getting into the nitty-gritty of sort of one element of our sort of thoughts, feelings and behaviors so that we develop a bit of self-awareness and insight into who we are, and also so we can get on top of things like sort of anxiety symptoms, depressive symptoms, and really start to work towards creating a life that we can be pretty proud of.
Yeah, beautiful. And Ash's work is going to be a great part of a new series that's going to be an ongoing workshop series called On My Mind, which we hope Ash will continue to contribute to past 2020, when we can all get back into a room again. And once again, it's part of Support Act's kind of new mental health strategy, where we're committed to supporting the mental health and wellbeing of the industry through kind of in-person education opportunities, our webinar series with Ash, but also expanding our helplines to the whole arts sector, and a whole range of other new initiatives that we're looking into. And we hope that everyone's doing really well at home or wherever you might be. Ash, thanks so much once again for such an illuminating discussion.
Thanks for having me. And everyone, remember, always reach out for support, and there's always people out there ready to listen when you need it. So yeah, don't hold back.
Good, and that's a great prompt. Make sure you call the Support Act Wellbeing Helpline if you need it on 1800 959 500. Have a great day. See you next time.